Let me say good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Those of you tuned in, and of course, via our social media platforms, whether it's a Facebook page, YouTube channels. Those of you who are viewing this morning, also via GBN TV, Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20. Good morning and welcome to another edition of To The Point. Today being Thursday, the 11th day of April. And you know what happens on a Thursday here on To The Point? We do have various departments within the Royal Grenadier Police Force. And today we do have the Community Relations Department. We also have the RRU with us this morning? SSU. RRU with us this morning. And also Central Police with us this morning. So good morning once. Let me say good morning to the officers with us this morning. We have, of course, Sergeant, let me get the names right, Sergeant 119, Mike Modest. Good morning to you, sir. We also have Corporal 255, Angel, that's Ardell. Let me get the name. I was going to mess up the names. Ardell Lewis. So good morning. And we have a police constable, that's Andre Welsh with us this morning. Let me say good morning to you, officers, once again, and welcome to The Point this morning.
Pleasant good morning.
All right.
Good morning, and thanks for having us.
We apologize for the bit of a late start this morning, but sometimes technology fails us for whatever reason all the time. Our topic of discussion this morning, we're talking violent behavior. And the tendency of the violence that occur among young people in particular. That's our main focus this morning. So that's where our discussion would lead. When we talking violence in its nature, who would like to give us a bit of a definition of when we say violence? Folks may say, a listener or viewer this morning may hear somebody say, "Yeah, talking about violence." Violence may range in different forms, per se. You understand? So when we talking violence, who would like to give us a bit of a definition of what violence may mean in a broad sense?
All right, in the context of what we do in law enforcement, we refer to violence as physical force intended to cause harm, hurt, or serious damage to someone or something.
All right, someone or something. So, for instance, I'm walking along the road for some reason. I'm being spoken to by someone, said something that I dislike for whatever reason, and I'm decided, well, I'm going to pick up whatever by the side of the road, may it be a stone or whatever, something I'm being as simple as possible. And I decide to launch it at an individual. That's deemed as me being violent towards an individual.
Yes, and from the time you pick it up and you have that intention to harm, to hurt, or to cause damage, you enter into the realm of what we call violence.
All right. In nature of regular individual, how prevalent is what we seeing? Because we do hear stories from time to time, individual being violent towards each other for whatever reason. From the police point of view, how worrisome is the violence nature on island in Grenada?
Well, if I may speak as it relates to that, I think we have a clear picture as to what is taking place, because if we look at social media, we will see a lot of recordings of violence, where there may be fight.
Yes.
Even with citizens of the nation having altercation with officers. Mm-hmm. If we look at our different activities we have throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, CARICOM, and Petermatic, we also see at major events, fights. You narrow down to our schools, within the schools, you'll see recently there's a surge in finding of offensive weapons and fighting within school and other public places. So there's zero tolerance on offensive weapon, and this is really working. We are out there and trying our best as possible to quell the situation.
All right. My next question is a bit open in terms of, we know violence goes across the board in terms of adults and youngsters, but lately we've been seeing a bit of an upsurge, in terms of young people being in violent altercation among themselves. You understand? What are some of the root causes that you are finding out, or reason for these root causes of violence from within the youth population, I would say?
As you rightfully said, it's a cause for concern, especially when the majority of the offenders we're seeing lately is part of the youth in the age range, youthful age range, and we always tend to look back at the family, which is where the youth would learn the basic morals and values that would obviously make them into healthy citizens, that would make them transfer into society seamlessly. We've seen a breakdown in the family structure. We know absent fathers, and lately we not only seen absent fathers, we've seen absent mothers as well.
Yeah.
Parents neglecting their duty to teach and to encourage. And while we accept that not all parents are on the level to teach and encourage, because sometimes they themselves didn't receive the discipline, so we see a generational pattern, going on here. And when that child, for example, is not taught the proper values within the home, that child tend to emulate that same behavior, same attitude out there, and that attitude would be transferred in schools. And you would find that even the young people today are behaving, violently, even in spiritual settings, for example, church places. So there's really no boundaries. So we see that the breakdown in the family structure has really contributed to the influx of youth violence in Grenada.
All right. If someone is to challenge you on that statement, guys, sometimes I do want to challenge individuals on that statement, because I would know that my mom and my dad may have brought me up in the best way possible, and I'm assuming all of us here, our parents may have brought us up in the best way possible. Maybe whether it's a single parent that we are born up, or we are part of the entire family. Individuals usually come about with a mind of their own. And it may not be that a parent or mother or father is not because they didn't teach you how to behave. You understand? But I'm always getting the statement being made, the family. But they always going to be other structures or other influences that will bring about the violent behavior of individuals. Not always, because there are things you see individuals do outside, and they dare not do it at home. And you might hear parents say, well, you don't do that at home. You don't behave like that at home. What's your take on that?
That is true, right? There's a saying that you make your children, you didn't make their mind, right? While I believe that, I also believe that parents have a big responsibility in helping to mold the minds of the children, right? You didn't make their mind. In the end, they have free will to do what they want to do. But you have a big role to play in terms of the values you pass on to them. They may do things at school that they don't do at home, but I think part of a parent responsibility is to find out about the child behavior in school. That's why you have PTA meetings, one-on-one with teachers, You find out about your child behavior from people on the street and so on. Nothing is wrong if you have a friend or another family member looking out for your child, monitoring the places he or she goes on a regular basis, to kind of have that general perspective as to how your child is behaving, because the parents, have a lot of blame to take.
I understand that. You want to chime in on it also?
If I may say something about that, because I must say that there are some single parents out there who are doing some excellent job. I was raised by a single mother, and she did an excellent job with me, and there are some single fathers out there who are doing some excellent job. But since there's a breakdown in the family, in the extended family within the island or within the region, or the whole world, I would say, then you will see that there is less planning in the home. There's less rules and regulation in the home. There's less supervision in the home. So if there's a single parent and the single parent steps out, or always in some party or always somewhere, who is left home to supervise the child? Is there a monitoring system to monitor your child at all times? In most cases, there's not. So, and then the village, again, cease to raise the child, because it takes a village to raise a child. Nowadays in a community, if you hit my child, I come in and fight with you.
Times have changed.
Times change. So gone are the days whereby a village will raise a child. This has ceased to exist. So now it's like, this is my child and that child. What are you monitoring your child? Now children have cell phones, they have iPods, they have this, they have that. Are you monitoring what they get involved in? They play all kind of violent games on the tablet or on the cell phone. There's no monitoring system. Do you know where your child is at all times?
So true. Officers, we drew for a break. Let's take that break. We come back and we discuss some more. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Good morning once again to those of you via our social media platforms. We coming right back. Stay with us.
Saturday, May 4th, there will be a shift on the island as the biggest grilling fest in Grenada moves to the big parish. The Maggie King of the Grill competition is at Progress Park, St. Andrew. Come taste the most sumptuous creations from the grill as top chefs and food enthusiasts showcase their culinary skills. Maggie King of the Grill is a festival like no other with live soca music, fun attractions, and games for the entire family. Then from 6 p.m., get a chance to win up to $5,000 cash in bingo. Interested vendors and grillers should call 456-3454 to register. It's the Maggie King of the Grill competition at Progress Park, St. Andrew. Gates open from 12 noon. Bring your appetite and stay tuned to this station for more details.
Maggie King of the Grill is made possible by Bryden and Miners, Hunt's, the official barbecue sauce of King of the Grill, Rubis, get going, Independence Agencies, agents for Swiss products, Grenada Paper Product, Grenada Bottling Company Limited, and Waggy Tea Rental and Sounds.
Coming up by Bus, Jeep and Booth, you will enjoy a front row seat to breathtaking Trinidad and Tobago attractions. Antigua's biggest resort definitely delivers the goods. Cricket, crop over, a busy summer of top events in Barbados is on the horizon. From panorama to parade of bands, this steel band is making an impact on all fronts. It's all next on this station.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to the point, of course, here on Classic Radio and GBN TV. Officers, welcome back. My next level of questioning goes like this. We hear of violent offenses taking place from time to time. We may hear of the regular. There's a tendency to see the regular violent offenses. You know, two guys had a fight, someone hit someone like that. From what you've been picking up from as being police officers and of course from the Community Relations Department, the RU and so forth, what are some of those really prevalent violent offences, especially within this jurisdiction of Grenada, I would say?
Well, first of all, we have noticed that a lot of the violent behavior is being fueled by irresponsible use of social media. Mm-hmm. Now, I often say, as a parent, you have to get with the times. And if you do not know how to use social media, how to get onto those platforms, I believe you can learn. You need to know where your children are interacting, how they are interacting, and you must establish a punishment and reward system. If they are using the devices correctly, then you give that encouragement. If they are using it to promote fights, if they are using it to promote nudity, you pull back. Important note again, I understand if you are the parent of a child and it is reported to you that your child or your children is misbehaving, there is a level of shame that you're going to feel. There's a level of frustration that comes your way. But after that frustration, what next? And there should be a next. And the next should be personal responsibility. Now, I am a police officer, and if my child is misbehaving, and the information is clear, I have to accept that my child is misbehaving. I'm going to feel a certain way, being a professional, being someone that goes to the school, being someone that is living in the village, and the behavior, especially if it's behavior that does not line up with who I am as a person. So after feeling that initial stage of shame, I have to accept that responsibility. And then whatever program that is put in place, be it through the school system, if the police is contacted, sometimes we do the case conferences where we use the approach of having a representative from the community level, school level, social development, child protection, as the needs may be. And we provide that information and we say to the parent, whatever is being dished out to you, you have to first accept that your child did something wrong, then look at what the solutions are, and then provide that monitoring, provide that level of supervision where you can guide your child from that area onto a better path. Without that personal acceptance there, if you take the attitude that the police don't like your child, the teacher don't like your child, where are we going? If it's wrong, we must come to that point where we accept that it is wrong.
All right.
And when we do that, we go further. So we have the offensive weapon, we have the fighting, we have the bullying, we have all the different type of things. Use of illegal substances, all these are confronting us on a daily basis as police officers.
All right. Now, the concept of parents, absorbing or accepting, the responsibility of their sons and daughters being violent, because we kind of stress a lot on the boys, but they are females who are sometimes very violent or show some violent tendency from time to time. How is it important for parents, the role that a parent should play in terms of accepting that responsibility?
I heard recently, I had a conversation with my sergeant that is sitting here, and he spoke of socialization and the fact that traditionally we spend so much time in ensuring that our young ladies behave properly. They are teach life skills at a very early age. And so most of them are responsible. And then you look at the males, whether it's intentional or unintentional, but sometimes we give them a pass on everything, and then we're surprised when that young man is having difficulties later on.
Yeah.
So we have to look at that. If there is a particular method that brings result, and it's bringing it, and our women are making better choices, we also need to use that same method for our young boys as well. We know that sometimes they are late bloomers when it comes to the education, so there might have to be extra classes, extra activities and everything there. And we really have to make a strong effort to ensure that our young males have role models, that they are engaged positively. And I think if we do that, we will see a drop-off in the level of violence that we are experiencing now by our youth.
All right. Well, we see when parents usually do see, violent tendencies have been acted out by their children, their sons and daughters once again. Where does a parent step in? When do a parent step in? Because sometimes, as we said, we did mention earlier on that, sometimes it doesn't happen at home, but there are times that it's happening at home for some reason. And we know parents have that way of covering up what their sons and daughters are doing within the household. Where does it step? Should that parent or that mother or father stepping and start to put that level of authority to curb that tendency that maybe,
Well, there is a saying, nip it at the bud. I think that youth don't get up one morning and, just suddenly start to be violent. There's a process. It is a trait that is developed over time. For example, you may see that child having a problem with stealing in the home. You just, as a parent, you can't rest money anywhere. They will take it and they will continue stealing stuff, and you keep talking to them about it and they're just not heeding your warning. That could be a warning sign that child could eventually take that stealing habit out of the home. So your responsibility is to encourage and to show that child that, hey, stealing is really wrong. It doesn't matter who you take it from. Even if you decide to steal something from your mother, yes, it's your mother, right? But it's not yours. And you train that child to ask for things when he or she wants it. So we may look at things very simple and bypass certain things. But, for example, I've experienced cases where infants will be cussing obscene languages. And the parents will be laughing. Hey, look at him, he's cussing nice. And it's a joke, right?
Leave him, he go stop.
Leave him, he go stop, right? But it doesn't stop, right? Eventually, they grow into the biggest cuss buds in the community, So we take things for granted, we take things for a joke, and eventually it comes to haunt us later on.
So you're saying parents should take the tendency of nipping these things early, because some individuals will grow into it.
Eventually.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I think also children tend to mirror what they see taking place within the household or within the community. They tend to clone it. Because, for example, if I could make a comparison with what's been taking place with the recent upsurge in violence, not within the youths, but the seniors within the community. This village and that village is warring, and then that trickle down to the schools, whereby the youths or the kids in the school, even at the primary school level, is having issue with the person from the other village just because the seniors is at war. You understand? So that trickle down basically from the big persons in society, the elders in society, and it comes down to our youths. So it's very important that we as our youths, as we as parents, we set standard and we hold ourselves very high so our children would look up to us. They would look up to persons in our communities as role models, and we would emulate them, and we want to be like them. Because when I was growing up, I was looking at my uncle Trevor Modest, and I say, because he was a senior officer, and I say, I want to be like Trevor. And I reached so far to throwing javelin and representing Grenada like him. You understand? So we need that. Just yesterday, I was speaking to our youth because we were called to deal with a particular situation where they pull a knife on a young child. And the young child have to throw himself over a veranda. And I was asking them, when I was speaking to them, the three of them going to secondary school, and I was asking them, where do we all see yourselves from here? What do you all want to be? And they don't know. They have no clue. So a lot of them is clueless. They have no goal walking towards.
All right. Well, who should be taking up that mantle or that responsibility when we see violence of that level, clans and so get to that level? Who should be taking up that responsibility?
Well, as law enforcement officers, anything that amounts to crime falls on our plate. Fortunately, we are not alone. We understand the resources that is available. So we work very closely with units like probation, child protection. Though we represent different departments here, we all have a very aggressive school program. We have community outreach. We engage leaders in the community because sometimes, based on the community that have the issue, the police may not be the greatest voice there. And so we do identify leaders that have influence, and we walk through them and we walk with them to carry out our mission, because ultimately what we want is a safer Grenada. We want a situation where our young people make good decisions, they study well, they play sports, and they represent themselves and their family and the country in a manner that we all could be proud of. I want to say something before we go on. So, you're in the side to see that he look up to his uncle. Yeah. Being a young man, I'm from the community of Chantemelle, and there was an officer there. He's still an officer in the Force in CID now. So I'm being a young person, and every time he comes around, you throw him a cuss in the stop. Every time you see him, you walk straight. And I look at that man and I say, I want to be a police. I didn't look for excuses. I picked somebody that had the respect, because little children, old people, everybody was looking up to him. That officer is Sergeant Baptiste in CID, Emerson Baptiste.
All right.
When I went for my interview to become a police officer, I had my head big. And he saw me going up the fort and he called me. He said, where you going? I said, I'm going for my interview. He said, nah, you ain't going for the interview. He said, go and cut you here. I never even say those words to him, but he has a profound effect on my life and me being in the position that I am today, because he carried himself with respect and it trickled along in the community and it reached me.
All right.
And I say that to say to a young person, sometimes you don't have an example in your family, but there could be one in the community. So with personal acceptance, I'm big on that. Yes, you could be in poverty. Yes, your father could be this and your mother could be that. But there are persons who succeed in spite of. And you could see yourself as a person like that, rather than saying, because of my circumstances, I am naturally going to fail. Yeah. I don't like those things.
We be talking about personal ambitions,
Yeah.
And to add, I think every single person listening to my voice, at all ages, whoever is at the age of reasoning and can understand what I'm saying, should hold personal responsibility, at least. Because we often speak of, everyone, sometimes you hear people saying, I'm independent, I'm responsible for myself. But society is governed by what we call interdependence. We all depend on each other. You need me, I need you. And if every person can, at least mentor, providing that you're in a place to mentor, because if you have to be a mentor, you must be in a place to do it. Yes. You must first develop yourself. So everyone that is able to at least guide one young person, even if that person is not related to you, because at the end of the day, at least we are all related somewhere or the other. But if someone is not related to you directly by blood, I think it's still a responsibility to help them, to nurture them, because what you're nurturing is not just them physically, but their gifts and their talents as well. you know. And as a young person myself, it pains me to see the young talents and gifts, you know, fading away and rotting away in the prison, in the juvenile centers. While the efforts in the juvenile centers and the prison is to, you know, to rehabilitate, but there's some things that, you know, we can teach our kids not to do. You know, the simple stealing and so on. We can try our best to recondition their minds, rather.
Yeah.
You know, because in the end they're losing their minds, right? And if you permit me to go a little bit further with
Go right ahead.
I tend to look at it from also a spiritual perspective, from a biblical perspective. Our wrestle most of the times is not really against what we can see. I believe there are forces out there that are influencing our youth to do things that are unseemingly, you know, things that they may not really want to engage in, but they don't have the knowledge and the willpower to overcome such forces. So where does God come in that picture, right? Personally, God gave me the strength, you know, to overcome a lot of the influences out there. And I think I'm a perfect candidate to, you know, encourage the youth, because I've been there. I've been the point where I was a little bit delinquent. Didn't want school, you know, wasting time. But that turnaround came from me when I decided to tend to my spiritual aspect, the spiritual aspect of my life, you know. And I tend to think of health not just the absence of physical illness, but health is a holistic thing. You have to be socially healthy, spiritually healthy, emotionally healthy. So while I try to tend to my physical health, I also try to, you know, boost my spiritual life, my social life, you know. So I think our youth should be placed on that wavelength. You know, we're calling on churches, every single sector, man, every single organization, business place out there. You know, let's take an aggressive approach to winning back our youth, because they are the future.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, anything further? Anything further? You want to chime in on this?
I think that movement was so deep.
Anyone chime in? You know, that's a wonderful contribution there from the officer. Let's take a break. We come back. When we come back, I want us to think about solutions, recommendations that we can throw to our listeners and viewers there right now. They're probably that particular parent who's home, who's listening to this program this morning, having that son and daughter who they may be having some issues with, and you know, probably wanted assistance. Maybe have never considered, you know, speaking to the community relations department for whatever reason. Not wanting to, you know, get that reach out for help. You know, that individuals know they're having those problems, especially with their sons and daughters, but doesn't want to reach out for that particular assistance for whatever reasons, for whatever it's pride or whatever you want to call it. Don't want to reach us. When we come back, we want to discuss on that a wee bit. Stay with us. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. We'll be right back. Stay with us, folks.
Mark your calendars, football fanatics. The GFA is turning 100 this year, and we're ready to celebrate. It's GFA's Legends Weekend, a 3-day extravaganza, kicking off on Friday, May 3rd, and running all the way till Sunday, May 5th. Witness history in the making. The Caribbean taking on the world in a clash of legendary international footballers on Sunday, May 5th at the electrifying Kirani James Athletic Stadium. Get ready to roar with the crowd as iconic legends like Emmanuel Adebayor, El Haj Diouf, Alex Song, Michael Essien, Luis El Matador Hernandez, Shaka Hislop, Asamoah Gyan, Ricardo Bibi Gardner, Russell Latapi, Shallery Joseph, Jason Roberts, Dexter Daps, and a whole host of superstars light up the pitch. From breathtaking goals to unforgettable memories, GFA's Legends Weekend promises an epic celebration of football you won't want to miss. Keep your eyes peeled on GFA's social media for the full squad reveal. GFA's Legend Weekend. Be there.
In honor of the Grenada 50th Independence, the Royal Grenada Police Force Band presents the second annual Mother's Night Out. Mother's Night Out. The concerts all going down on Sunday, May 12th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center. Featuring live from TNT. It's crazy.
Time to come. America will have a black president.
John King.
How many more?
June Lodge. together with the Hitman Inspector, Valine Ned, Samantha Dixon, Alex Phillip, Shane, Innocent, General PP, Kareem, Alexis, Ron Barry, the African Man, and much more. Dress code elegant. It's Mother's Night Out, the Grenada Trade Center from 5 p.m. on Sunday, May 12th. Lots of giveaways and prizes to be won. Champagne and roses on entry. You don't want to miss this amazing experience for mothers. Your tickets only $70 and are available from Gittins Pharmacy in Grand Dance and Grenville, Grenadian Optical, the Police Bandhouse, Police Canteen. Make this a date for mothers.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Welcome back, officers, once again. And I did mention a particular, of course, level of conversation we want to get into in terms of the solution recommendations. I'm see we do have someone calling in. Let's take that information from that caller first, and then we getting to the speaking about the actual question that I want us to get into. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yes, good morning. Well, in terms of actual solutions, there is a brilliant movie. It's an old one starring Sidney Poitier, To Sir With Love. Of course, many of us would know the tune, but it's about a teacher who basically transforms a classroom full of, well, you could say decadent students, who are into doing wrong things. And so since it's back in the 1960s, some of the incidents of crime that we are now dealing with were not displayed in the movie. I think the principle of the relationship between the teacher and the students would be quite a thing, to be adopted, which leads on to the question of school counseling. I'm wondering how happy are your guests, the officers, with school counseling programs when students obviously are wrestling with certain issues. Another thing, security on school compounds. When parents want to come on school compounds, and we had that incident, remember, months and months ago, but still a major one, where a mother went and roughed up a student for interfering with her daughter, and it was the wrong student she was beating up. Well, to begin with, she should not have been on the compound beating up that student. What about security for schools when you have angry parents like that coming against a school system? And there was a video too, last but not least. Be quick about it. It was a little girl, and she was obviously in the bedroom with her two parents, and the girl had a revolver in her hand, and her father was encouraging her. This was being actually shot. It's in a video, and I don't know what possessed the parents to post that. Thanks and praise that it was not occurring in Grenada, but bad enough when you have a toddler playing with arms and parents encouraging them. And one of the officers, as your guest did mention, parents are making certain jokes of some of the behavior of their children. And then, of course, in the end, it turns and backfires, not just on the family, but on society at large. So just maybe your thoughts on that, the counseling, security on school compounds, and better relations between people like teachers and their students. Thank you,
caller. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. Any response to the callers? Of course, some of the suggestions that the caller may have made.
Well, he spoke to the issue of angry parents going onto school compound. Now, if a parent enters onto the school compound and assaults a child, that's a criminal offense. So there will be police action. And in a case like that, the action would be to arrest that offender and bring that person before the justice system. And the situation that he spoke of, because I have knowledge, I can say that there were actions by the police and that the magistrate did get the opportunity to view that matter and decisions were made. And that would be the approach. If you're going to the school to fight, you can be certain that there will be police action.
All right, great. All right, anybody else want to chime in on from the caller, or that's it?
Well, in terms of the security at school, I think there is in most of the schools throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, I think most of them, if not all, have security in place. If you look at GBS, as you look at SAS, Grenville Secondary, most of the schools are fenced, if it's not all.
Okay.
And there is security measures in place. I must commend a lot of the security officers at such schools, because from time to time you would see the amount of offensive weapon, maybe whether it may be knives, the cutlasses, or auto screwdriver, or whatsoever, that they have confiscated from students entering the school. So I must give them kudos for their efforts in that, and we work alongside with them. At the area, work alongside with them and give them tip and advice on how to search and where to search and where to look for such weapons. And when they have serious altercation, they normally call us and we go in and give them assistance when it's possible. So.
All right, great. Let's entertain another caller before we continue. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning, GT, and good morning to the officers. I'm glad the conversation, I'm very encouraged with the kind of conversation that has been held. But I think in terms of you, GT asked about solution. Before we go to solution, we must, and in scripture they talk about repent. We must acknowledge that we have done our nation great injustice by some of the decisions we made, by dismantling institutions and organizations that could have helped. Rather than trying to reform them, we disbanded them. I'm talking about after invasion. What happened? We dismantled everything. Whether it's evening classes that was voluntary done because the folks were looking for communists. Now we have a generation that run away. I mean, they have no sense of purpose, and they're the one that's having children now. Notwithstanding that, I think there's something we could certainly do. So we need to become radically honest, which we are not. Secondly, we need to hold each other accountable, and we need to move from competition to contribution. No, from consumption to contribution, and from competition to cooperation and collaboration. These are the principles and values we must teach our people, and I'm glad that one of the officers talk about the connection. We all related to some extent. We are never far away from being related to one another. And this has been broken down. And in this context, one of the things we can do is to make school much more community, meaning encourage people to stay in the area which they are from, to go to the schools that are available. Children are coming and students are coming to school from one end of the island, even when there are facilities in the area where they come from, so that many times these kids are not known. I mean, we don't know each other. When we have community-based school, people know each other, so that parents won't just walk in a school like that as they do now. And then we need to understand what we have done is to expose our people to all kinds of influence. We have opened up the airways, and I'm not telling that we shouldn't. I mean, before we had one radio station which everybody listened to for the most part. Now we have 1,000 one that nobody listens. And only if they're listening about noise and foolishness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution. Officer, let's take another call and then we come back to see if we can give some answers to the questions that have been asked. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Hello, good morning. Good program. This problem is more than a socio-economic problem. That goes back to, as one officer said a short while ago, a spiritual problem. But however, parents have a critical role to play in nurturing and disciplining the children. For example, what the parents allow to come into the home through the electronic media, the television, the internet, etc. Parental control on what the children view, who the children are associated with. These can go a long way. But when the moral fabric of the society is destroyed, it's broken down even by the politicians to spread hate and division, etc. It spills into the community and it influences weak minds. For example, we look at YouTube, we look at BET, we look at all the violence, and I'm disappointed too, because one time I was listening to GBN and the music that was being played, the lyrical content of it, that shouldn't even be played in hell. So we need, the state need to put these structures in place, that certain music should be played probably in the dance hall exclusively and not on the radio station, whether it's GBN or privately owned radio station. Even, for example, when we had cinemas in town, Regal and Empire, they were vetted, certain age group are permitted. But today that is out and you have the cinema in your bedroom. So even that too, parents ought to be careful, even with Netflix or whatever medium they are using. They should ensure that, listen, this is not right, this is wrong, etc., etc. The breakdown takes place in the society. It starts in the home, and it doesn't appear to be a solution. But what we can do still is to make an effort to fight as hard as we can to alleviate that problem.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Anyone respond to the callers? Of course, some of the suggestions that the caller. Anyone wants to respond?
Well, we had several callers, and I noticed that they all are offering solutions. And what comes to mind is that we can have those community forums where we listen to as much persons as possible from the community, because I believe within the communities lies the solution.
Yeah.
Now, from law enforcement, we have a perspective. There's a religious sector, and there are others. And everybody going to come forward with ideas that they think could address the situation. And what I'm seeing here, having a meeting or having a plan that is targeted towards finding those solutions probably might be one of the 4 solutions to the issue. Also, we look at the homes, we look at parenting, and the Ministry of Social Development, they are actually running parenting programs throughout the district. So somebody that have an issue, let's say you're from a particular community and there are parents that are having struggles in terms of parenting their children, you can get in touch with your district, the Social Development District Office, and you could request that particular training. From the police perspective, we go to the schools, we go to the community, we speak to persons. Recently, we had a community forum at St. Mark, and under the leadership of the divisional commander there and the commander for the Victoria Police Station, the community was brought together. Kids that were having issues with each other, they were brought there with their parents and community leaders. That meeting was addressed by Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Prince. And that is the level of attention that the RGPF is giving to the issue. And as we do more of that, I believe we will be able to make a dent, if not curb the issue.
All right, great. Let's take another caller. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, you're welcome.
Yeah, morning. I'm enjoying the program, but it make me remember the past. Now, it's good to see police doing work what look like social service, but if you go back 50 years ago, do you know that policemen used to go from wherever the station and in the communities, leave lots of babies, and they didn't used to pay child support? So we see a change in that now. Maybe if police of this generation, like the 3 men who sit in there, perhaps if they get a girl pregnant in the community where they did the policing, where they policing now, they might deduct from the paycheck. So this is a modern change we see. We're dealing in society. So policemen who 80, 75 years old, they have lots of children. And even later on in life, the wife that they married with and the children they grow in the house get to know the other children they make in every community. Now, we're talking about violence and things in communities. Yeah, this is very scary, man. I remember when I was a boy growing up, you had gangs. But nowadays, the gangs and them are a little bit more deadly because every community used to have a Bajan, but you can't say there are Bajans that outstanding anymore. The quietest person could become a Bajan overnight. And this is a problem. But one of the biggest problems in Caribbean, too, we got to address is the way we police people too. For example, there are things police arrest citizens for and perhaps they should turn a blind eye on. For example, in North America, if a police here you cause a 4-letter word, they won't be quick to arrest you. That go unnoticed. Why in our society they go say, oh, the police here, some people using obscene language, they didn't arrest them. But maybe if we change that way of policing, not arresting people for 4-letter word, perhaps you could have less anger in a society, because people swear because they're frustrated. They swear because they're drunk. They swear for many reasons to ease up stress. And this, as long as police arresting citizens for little petty things, we're going to be focusing on bigger crimes in our society. And then again, we have the Jamaican culture. Jamaican culture is infiltrating Grenada with the DJs. Like we had, reggae fest. How can you have a reggae fest when we don't even have a reggae band in Grenada? What about our local cultures in the communities? I'm from St. Patrick. I said they had cultural activity in St. Patrick. Why can't we revoke it? Revoke this culture and revive them than we Jamaicanize in our country. Because Jamaican culture come with a package. You understand? And the young people gravitate to it. In terms of the internet in other ways.
Cole, I'm going to actually take another 10 seconds and wrap, please.
Yeah, anyway, I think the problem goes two ways. The system have to look into the new way of education now to deal with young people and perhaps address things differently. Okay?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Let's take our final caller this morning because we're about to wrap the segment up this morning. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, my friend. I would have joined the program a little late, all right? But I think I understand the drift of what you're doing. I have one question for the police officers. I remember in the past, the police used to be going to the schools and having one-on-one with the children. Every school, there used to be police officers going there and having one-on-one with children. I want to know if the police still do that. Question one, right? But in the meantime, I want to make a comment, right? For violence, this is something that is embedded in our society. And if we don't find a way to curb it, it's going to be hectic and we wouldn't be able to survive in our society. The violence in Grenada is not only about Grenada, it's a Caribbean thing. As a matter of fact, it's a world thing. If you look on the world stage today, and you notice on the social media and even television and other things, you see people, the amount of killing that we see happening and so on in all those Med countries and so on. These are part of the things that contribute to the things that's happening to us. But that's a part, right? What we have to do as an advice, I think we should find a way to have our children brought up, because it does not start from outside, it starts from inside. You have to find a way we have to find a way to have the parents supposed to find a way to have the leeway over their children. Conversation, speaking to your children is number one. You must speak to your children. And the other thing that has to happen, again, parents, we have to find a way to involve our children in church. If you go to the churches on any given day, Saturday or any other day that there are church services in the different communities, you don't see boys there. The only people you see are girls. The men in our society is not taking part in the things that is good for developing our community and to show respect to one another. So if we lose the head, then the tail can't wag. So this is one thing I would like to see people encourage. Get your families to go to church, and by so doing, you get the children to go. You can tell me you have a son or a daughter, and you can't get them to go to church, and they're living under a roof. This is nonsense, right? This is one thing. So the fear of God is going to come into our society. Another thing you have to look at here is the
Caller, we already strapped for time. So if you could, of course, just wrap up, that'll be good.
We have to find a way to get people to speak to one another in a decent manner and to show respect. And unless we could do that, we're not getting anywhere. I wish I could have more time to speak to you, but we need to form community organizations. There isn't enough of that in our society where we could, the adults could involve the children, and by so doing, the community grow the children. Anyway, thank you, and I wish I could get on your program another time.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Of course, we've been hearing a lot from the callers, officers. Some of them making, of course, really good contributions in terms of some solutions that we could come up to in some of the problems now, ways of curbing those problems. We are a bit strapped for time. Any closing comments from you officers this morning before we take a wrap? Anybody want to grab some closing comments in terms of the conversation this morning?
Yes, well, if I may start, I think that some of the callers call and they spoke with a high level of passion. I could hear it in some of them voices that they are really concerned, and we see the importance of a program like this, because you see we are strapped for time and so many people trying to call in. So definitely that you could see from that there's a cause for concern out there. I just want to let the general public know that policing is not only for the police.
Yeah.
Our kids is not only for the parent to raise, but the whole village, police, all of us, is our job, it's our duty. And we are out there because we care. We are not just there to come and to arrest you or to take your reports or whatsoever, but we are there, we are doing what we're doing because we generally love what we are doing, and we generally care about the youths. So when we have program within the schools and we speak to the youths or the kids on a one-on-one basis, those who are behaving delinquently, it's to reform them, it's to help them to grow, it's to learn from them the reasons or the causes of why they are doing this or why they are doing that, and to come up with solutions as to how we're going to help them to be better citizens, to contribute towards nation building. So we are out there 24/7. Our lines are always open and to support in whatever way possible.
All right.
And I too want to encourage the general public. I'm very encouraged by what I see here this morning with the callers and all the different contribution. And I see a role for the community to engage your police, engage your police station, engage your leaders, bring forth those ideas. Let us sit and have that conversation. Let's have more conversation, and I believe by doing so, ultimately, we will arrive at a place where we have a clear vision of what to do in terms of curbing youth violence.
All right. Any closing comments from you?
It's just an encouragement to the general public, especially adults, leaders, people of respectability, to be that watchtower, be that lookout for, even if it's one young person, you can try to encourage. They may not listen to you on the first or the second occasion when you start speaking to them, but eventually what you do, you plant a seed, and a seed takes time, germinate, and then it blooms, you groom it, and it blooms into something awesome, So there is still hope, and I think we should end on that note.
All right. I want to thank you, officers, once again, of course, for being here this morning and sharing the information. Certainly hope the listening and viewing public have absorbed enough of it said. The callers who contributed to today's program, I want to thank you also. They were very positive contributions. I want to thank them all. So until we have another session, I want to thank you, folks, once again. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Join me again tomorrow for another edition. Stay with us. That's where we say goodbye.